We're off. Okay, so this one is going to be interesting, and this one might have to be one where if I don't reach £5,000, I'm going to force the person that donated this to drink a bottle of this stuff on its own. Although, from what I gather, he really likes this. This was a donation from Malt Mike. I'm going to get a picture of Malt Mike up because I've not put one up before. Malt Mike, fantastic bloke. Again, like Charlie Kavai with the previous whiskey, never met the guy, met him on Facebook. He seems absolutely lovely and awesome, and he does really good videos. And he's also quite good at impressions, I've found out. If you watch his Hey Club review, which he also liked quite a lot as well, didn't he? And he sent me this. Check that out. This is his all-time favourite whiskey, he tells me. Not really. He calls this the Black Death, which isn't a particularly good sign. So, this, he's not even put a label on it. I mean, how rude. Fortunately, I know what it is because he's told me and I've done a bit of research. So, this is called Beinn Dubh. You've seen on the titles how it's spelt, whatever, how you spell it. But you don't actually go Beinn Dubh. It's Beinn Dubh, which means Black Mountain. Dubh is black. So there was Loch Dubh, which was Black Lake. The company that made this, or the distillery that makes this, is a distillery called the Speyside Distillery, which is a little bit confusing because obviously Speyside is a region and a lot of distilleries call themselves Speyside Distilleries. This is actually called the Speyside Distillery. It's relatively new. It was set up in 1956 by a guy called George Christie, initially as a grain distillery, and he started building a malt distillery in 1962, but it wasn't actually completed until 1987. So the first release of their malt whiskies wasn't until 1990, so it's actually quite a new distillery. Now, being quite new and quite relatively modern in terms of in the 90s, they're doing some unusual things and different things, and whether it's actually a good thing or not is a different matter entirely. They have a range, their standard ranges is just called Spey, but it's like Spey, all capital letters. So it's not Spey, it's Spey. And they look a bit fancy packaging, but they don't get particularly good reviews. It was built opposite the site of a distillery that was called Dram A, which closed in 1911, and they actually have a release of malt whiskies called Dram A themselves as kind of brand. Now they have an unaged version, whether they're still around and about or not, I don't know, but when I was working in the whiskey shop, we had an unaged Dram A for sale, and it was one of, if not the cheapest single malt whiskey that you could get in the entire shop. We had a tasting bottle of it, and I can categorically say it was one of the worst single malt whiskies. In fact, it was one of the worst all-round whiskies I have ever had. It was freaking awful, just horrible stuff. So I've never really been a big fan of this, and a few years ago there was you might have heard of Loch Dubh, which is a kind of infamous black whiskey that is no longer available. It was produced by the Mannockmore Distillery, and it was essentially a combination of very, very, very heavily charred casks and shitloads of colouring added to it to make it as dark as possible. Now Speyside made a version of it that they called Kudu, CUDHUBH, however it is. And this was made for a Danish company called Mac-E. And it was sort of highly regarded, and what they've done is they've now done their own version, which is called Beinn Dubh. Now this is named, Beinn Dubh is Black Mountain, and this is named after, that's my daughter crying, I'm hoping my wife will go and sort her out. This is named after a mountain which is here in the Cairngorms, called Beinn Dubh, I think it is. It's the second highest mountain in Scotland, just under Ben Nevis. What I didn't do was put a map of where the Speyside Distillery is, which is just outside Kingassy, which is here. We'll get there in the end. And this particular one, they have their own website for Beinn Dubh, and it goes on about the Black Mountain. Beinn Dubh was named after a professor that apparently climbed the mountain, and there is a legend of a grey man, and people would drink the black whiskey to keep the spirits away, and all of this absolute nonsense. The website also goes on about It's my washing machine singing a song for you. Essentially is implying that the reason that this is so dark is they mature it in casks that have previously held port. Now the company is called Tannoria Josepha LDA. I have never heard of them as a port company. They might be really big, but I get the feeling that they're not. So they're implying that the ruby port casks that are being used is pretty much solely responsible for this dark colour. Now there's no age statement on it, and I don't think that's all due to port casks. I think there is a lot of colouring in this. So, just for you, Mike, I'm going to try the Black Death. Now, to be fair, it is more. There is quite a rubiness on it. Yeah, it's kind of like a dark ruby red rather than a dirty brown. But now that I've poured it into the glass, it looks more like a dirty brown. It's not a particularly attractive colour, let's be fair. Now, the Scarecrow that I had from Tobias von Neubrunner was a similar type of thing, where it's kind of heavily charred casks, it's colouring, that sort of thing. It was really good on the nose, a bit disappointing on the palate. Let's see what this is like. Sherry. It's not whiskey, it's sherry. It's 40%, and you're looking at about... Well, Whiskey Exchange was selling this for 49 quid, so 45 to 50 quid, which seems pretty steep. Sherry and raisins and really, 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 really rich burnt Christmas cake. It's not that bad on the nose, to be perfectly honest. It's not burnt, it's not a burnt caramel smell. There's none of that, which would be quite off-putting. If you like Christmas cake and you like Christmas and you like really rich sweet sherry, then you'd probably quite like this. It's not that bad. Kind of prunes. It's very fresh though. It's quite spirity, this. Okay, the nose is a lot better than the palate. It's weird. It's not awful, I'll give it that. It's just really unbalanced. It's nowhere near as sweet as I feel like it should be. It's slightly burnt, but it's really quite harsh. It's really fiery on the tongue. Is this 40%? I may have got this wrong. Just bear with me a second, because it's entirely possible this is slightly stronger. It might be 46, because it's really... Right, Beinn Dubh. It feels too fiery to be 40% on the tongue. It must be 43 or 46, surely. 43%, right, okay. Even then I'd say it was slightly stronger than that. Did I put a picture of the bottle up? No, I don't think I did. So here's what the bottle looks like, should you wish to buy a bottle of it. I'm not sure I'd recommend it. And for some reason, they've also used a model to promote it, and if you Google Beinn Dubh and do image search, this is one of the first things that come up. What this whiskey has to do with a motorbike and an attractive woman with black wings, I haven't got the foggiest. I have no idea. It seems a bit of an odd one, to be honest. Yeah, the nose isn't actually that bad, to be perfectly honest. It's got a lot of things on the nose which I quite like, in terms of like rich sherried flavour and dark fruits and Christmas feel and all this lot. But then on the palate, it's a little bit thin, it's fiery, there's very little flavour. There is a bit of dark fruit, but not an awful lot. There's just nothing there, it's weird. Now the Scarecrow was kind of similar in that on the nose it was interesting, and on the palate there wasn't a great deal. But this is even lighter and thinner. You look at that and you think, oh, that's good. There should be a lot of flavour in it. It might not be very nice flavour, but there should be a lot of flavour in it. And there's not. It's just kind of slightly spirity. There's a bit of dark fruit on it. There's a bit of slight burnt caramel, but nowhere near as much as you'd think with something that's that colour. I've got quite a lot of that left as well. You know what this would be good on? Pour it on your Christmas cake and set fire to it. It would actually work quite well with a Christmas cake. If you poured it on top of your Christmas pud, and then set fire to it to get rid of all the alcohol, it would probably work quite well. But as a drink on its own, it's actually a bit of a letdown. It's not awful. To be honest, if it had more flavour in it, that probably would make it awful, because it's not very well balanced at all. It is a kind of, it kicks you, and not in a particularly pleasant way. Yeah, what flavours are there are just tight, unbalanced, spirity, not enjoyable. And then nose, I'd happily sniff that. I'd happily sit and sniff for quite a while, but I wouldn't want to drink it. I wouldn't pay bloody 50 quid for it, that's for certain. That's like Hay Club levels of rip-off. Tell me about it. Right, thanks Mike. Actually, thanks Mike, it was quite interesting, cheers for that, and it ticks another one off the list. I don't have any samples of Speyside, Spey, as they want to call it, and I would be very, very intrigued to give Dram A another chance. So if anybody out there that's watching has got a 2.5 cl sample, so one of these, that size jigger, not the bottom bit, that bit, if anybody's got any Dram A non-age statement, ideally, I think there's a 12-year-old, but the non-age statement, I'd love to give that another go, and it would be another one to tick off the list, and it would be a representation of the Speyside Distillery. If anybody does have any Spey out there, particularly their standard bottling, that would be fantastic to try, because I've never had that. But I am putting a bit of appeal out there, along with people to donate money, because the donations, they've got a bit quiet recently, and I'm on about 700 quid, but it would be nice to get at least over the grand. That would be fantastic. But yeah, I'm putting a bit of appeal out there for some Dram A, which is DRUMGUISH, non-aged statement, just for shits and giggles more than anything else. Right, that's me done. I'm going to do a few more tomorrow, I think, because I've got a few things on over the next few days, so I need to get a bit of a run on. I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.